And after the vibes were really, really good to start the season for the Golden State Warriors, it has taken a very tumultuous turn quickly. 4 straight losses for Golden State. What is the biggest issue? How are we going to get this thing back on track?
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Everyone, recording live late night on a Saturday after the Golden State Warriors fall to the Phoenix Suns 113-105 in a game that was never really a game until the game was too late. Unfortunately, that makes sense. Charlie Walter here, formerly at 95.7 The Game in the Bay Area. This is Locked On Warriors. I am your host. Also covered the team for CBS News Bay Area and saw their championship run in 21-22. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team. It's every day. We are free and available on the audio podcast platform if you're choosing. Plus, we stream live after all these games and Monday through Friday on YouTube. While you're there, give us the thumbs up and leave a comment. If you're in the chat, we're going with a mailbag style show for the second and third segments of today's episode. But I want to run through this thing because the Warriors lose by 8. Instant reaction without listening to Steve Kerr, without really breaking down what I just saw. It's more so raw. Here's what I thought of the game. Let me know what you thought of the game today. And it was as simple as the Warriors lost this game very, very early. Curry had a nice second half, 21 points in the second half, but it was the first half where it was Murphy's Law. It was Troy Murphy's Law. Anything that could go wrong for Golden State went wrong in this one. Settling for bad shots. The offense was not flowing. The connecting that Steve Kerr talks about, there was no connecting in the first half. Ball was sticking, wasn't moving. Meanwhile, on the other side, Phoenix was flowing. And more so, Warriors were just slow on their rotations. They picked it up in the third quarter. Golden State had a good third quarter to make this thing a game. But when it was all said and done, just not enough firepower for the Warriors. Not enough stops in the first half that put them behind the 8 ball and never really gave them a chance until it was way too late today. Who played well for Golden State? Curry only took 5 shots in the first half. You cannot have that. The analysis at halftime was essentially that Warriors had to have better screens from some of their bigs to free Curry. They were not getting him enough looks, but they did get him 16 shots in the second half. He goes 3 of 10 from 3, 23 points, was a +4 when he was on the floor today, as was Andrew Wiggins, +12. So, I mean, if you're going plus-minus only looking at this team, the starting unit can play when they're in there. The issue is right now, in the words of that old, what was it, Bennett of Coastal Carolina, we need more dogs. Warriors need more dogs. That, to me, is the biggest issue this season. I think will continue to be the biggest issue for the Golden State Warriors. It's just the fact that they're a man short. And we'll get into later on in the show maybe that man or men that they could go after to really round out the roster. But strength in numbers was the storyline. And it took a huge hit, did that storyline. And I guess the chapter went on a little remix when DeAnthony Melton went out with a season-ending injury. I think we just brushed it to the side when it happened. And it was like, oh, they got Buddy Hield. They got Brandon Bajemski. They got Moses Moody. No issues there. One issue, Moses Moody played 3 minutes in the game, took 1 shot, missed it, was a -5. I mean, at this point, it is what it is. Steve Kerr doesn't trust him for extended periods of time. And I don't know how that changes this season. You make your biggest jump from off-season to season. In season, I don't see how Moses is ever going to be 25 minutes a game, and that's what the Warriors kind of need at the shooting guard position. Instead, they're going with Brandon Bajemski, who played 33 minutes in the game, actually had one of his better games of the season, 50%, 4 of 8 from the floor, 50%, 2 of 4 from 3, knocked down both of his free throws, had 7 rebounds, 4 assists, +5 when he was in there for 12 points. So that's kind of vintage pods. That's the pods that I was excited about heading into the season. He looked good. Pat Spencer did not get the run that he did in the prior game. 8 minutes, scores no points, did have 3 assists, but not the spin sanity that I was hoping for after a really good effort his last time out. Buddy Hield. That to me is a player that it seems as Buddy goes, so do the Warriors from time to time. When he gets on that big time heat check, the Warriors are a completely different team offensively off the bench. And when he's not on a big time heat check, and today it was just struggling to dribble the ball and struggling to put it up, in his 16 minutes, only got off 4 3-pointers, did knock down a couple of them. But he had 11 points in the game and just was not impactful enough out there. The bench as a whole, Lindy Waters. I mean, storyline of the game to me was Durant guarding Lindy Waters. And Lindy's like, I'm going to make a move here. I think it was in the fourth quarter. Like 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. The starters had not subbed in yet. So it's Durant on the Suns playing for Phoenix with just the entire backup lineup for Golden State, even though Lindy technically is a starter. But anyways, Waters trying to make a move on Durant for a good 12 seconds to end the shot clock, fires one up there, and Durant just, I don't even think he jumped. He just stuck up his hand and was like, no chance. It was suffocating defense. And that's the cold, hard truth of the Warriors right now, is Lindy Waters is your starting shooting guard. Couldn't get off the bench last year for Oklahoma City. Was in the G League, and he's your starting shooting guard. And I know he's played well at times this season. I know he's proven that he's worth a roster spot on an NBA team. But that's your starting shooting guard. And that brings up the biggest problem for the Golden State Warriors. We need more dogs. How's it going to happen? Internally, is it going to happen? Jonathan Kuminga. Well, the real Jonathan Kuminga, please stand up. Had 19 today, or 19 minutes rather, 12 points. Was 0 of 8 in the first half, which means he was a perfect 4 of 4 in the second half. 4 of 6 from the free throw line. Only 2 rebounds. You don't like that from JK. An assist and a steal. But 12 points. Also had 4 fouls in the game. But first half, he just wasn't getting it done. Was getting some looks. And then I thought it kind of bled into his game in the second half from an attacking standpoint. There was a point in the second half where he had an easy pull-up 9-footer, 11-footer if he wanted it. I mean, that should be cake at this point. That should be a part of his bag. And instead, he flipped it over to Anderson or whoever it was just to move the ball a little bit. And it ended up being a Draymond turnover, that possession. You want to know how I know that? Is because there were like 3 in a row that were so egregious. Green had 4 in the game to lead the team and, in fact, had half their turnovers. They had 9. So that was not the issue for Golden State. The issue, well, you shot at 35% from 3 and only hit 14 of them. That doesn't hit that secret sauce we talked about, which is 23s, the other part of the secret sauce. The ketchup going in with the mayo to make Will Ferrell or Brennan's fancy sauce would be the 30 assists. And the Dubs did not have 30 assists in the game, just had 28. So those numbers usually they're on point, right? Those and Draymond Green hitting 3 3-pointers. He only had 2 in the game today. Green did finish with 13, 7, and 2. So Green's still impacting the game, especially defensively, but he's got to quit turning over the basketball. Good God. Answering questions on the other side when Locked On Warriors continues. The comments are open. The mailbag is here. Comments featured on the screen, and that's how we will continue this show before we talk some potential trades moving forward for Golden State. All right, let's tell you about some underwear. Christmas season is here. It's time to find some presents. And why not try out Skims? Skims is good stuff. And I've had complaints with underwear over the years. Biggest thing that I've had is the workout compression shorts. They're just a little much, in my opinion. I like something a little more leisurely. So try the Stretch 5 Boxer Brief. I promise you, it is good stuff. When I tried it, I found the missing link. They give you the movement for working out. You're not feeling like you're wearing gym clothes. Plus, they don't lose their shape or ride up. So it's good stuff. And I promise you this. I was doing the 45 on the goblet squats. It's up to like 65 from wearing these undies. Can't complain. Shop Skims Mens at skims.com/lockedonnba. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey. Select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. If you're looking for the perfect gifts for the whole family, Skims just launched their biggest holiday shop ever. It's available at skims.com/lockedonnba. back to the show whenever I find this link. Stand by. All right, so we go to the mailbag. We start with Andrew the GOAT. Warriors really about to be the 8th seed in the West. This is awful. Last I checked, because I haven't done the standings check at this point in the season, they were second. That was about 3 losses ago. So we'll do the updated standings check. I'm seeing this real time, and the Golden State Warriors have fallen to, in the West, 4th. So overall, everything's right in front of them. They're still ahead of the Denver Nuggets. They're still ahead of the Phoenix Suns. But at 12-7 with 4 straight losses, not looking as good as it did a couple of weeks ago. What I will say is we all know this. In the NBA, it's a long season. A lot can happen. It was the Warriors championship year. I think Boston, at one point that season, had a losing record like into Christmas or into February. They were like 23-24 at one point before they went on a heater and got to the NBA championship, or maybe it was the prior year, but the Celtics did that one year. I'm 1000% certain. So still a lot of time to go in that regard, but it comes down to what I was saying about, I don't think the Warriors have enough dogs right now. How are they going to get those scores? Can they wake them up internally? Because at the beginning of the year, they had a nuclear Buddy Hield, and at this point, you cannot expect that Buddy Hield every single night. I mean, he was hitting 6 threes every game. That'll help you out. And then you're just getting inconsistencies from the young players. It's not great overall. I will say this too. The Cleveland Cavaliers just lost 2 straight games to the Atlanta Hawks on the road. So streaks come and go in this league, but typically you look at the best teams. Boston's won 7 straight. Oklahoma City has won 4 straight. Memphis has won 5 straight. You know, the good teams are winning. And then you got the Milwaukee Bucks all of a sudden. They've won 6 straight games. So they're creeping up. So good teams, you know, they don't have many losing streaks. But you can have one here and there, still be a really good team. But I think it goes deeper than just the losing streak right now. It's the way they're losing and their lack of firepower at this point. I mean, they were a top 5 offensive and defensive team just a week ago. The offense has been kind of non-existent. They're down to 116 points per game, which in the Western Conference is not, you know, abysmal by any means, but they got off to a pretty hot start. They are currently, in about 4th place exactly in points per game. Did you see our starting shooting guard last year? Yes, I did, Peanut Daddy. So it's gotten better in that regard. The same Ferrari guide comes in. JK and Pods ain't anything special. Trade them if someone wants them. I mean, I think all the NBA teams around the league are seeing the exact same thing that we're seeing with both those players. And I mean, you probably get what you trade for to a certain extent. And if the Warriors need this, now I will say this: I'm sure you saw the Vucevic reports that have come out that the Bulls essentially are looking for a fire sale right now. Everyone's up for grabs, and the asking price could be starting at 2 second-round draft picks for Vucevic of the Bulls, who's averaging 20 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 57% from the floor, 45% from 3, and 86% from the free throw line. That gives you a scoring threat and gives you some size, gives you 2 things that you could use. I mean, at this point, you got to do something before the deadline's up if you want to be a serious player in this year's season. And based on the offseason talk that Joe and Mike were throwing at us, that's the expectation right now for the Golden State Warriors. But Vucevic would be a nice stretch 5. Not the greatest defender in the world, has been compared to a traffic cone from time to time. But Ralph says, would give Looney another crack to the starting lineup be worth a shot? How much did Looney play tonight? That's the question that I have. He went for 16 minutes, 4 of 4 from the floor, 6 rebounds, was a positive in the game, 9 points. I mean, Looney's effective. Looney's effective out there. 16 minutes, I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be up over 20. Trace Jackson-Davis went 15 as well. And then you got Draymond that's playing that small ball 5 quite a bit. So Kerr back to his old squad. Look, there's not many other options you can go to, Cram. the team is what it is. I mean, if you're begging for more Moses Moody, that's fair. He goes 3 minutes in the game, but aside from a second half flurry, or I guess the end of the first half flurry a couple games ago against who even was that against at this point? God, they're all blending together. Help me out, chat. I'm going to lose some sleep over this one. Brooklyn. That was definitely against Brooklyn. Yeah, but aside from that, I mean, he's had opportunities. He's had his 15 minutes, and he hasn't done a whole ton. Get him up to 20. Sure. At this point, I don't care. But the Warriors have to find something because it's not coming from Kuminga as of right now. And his 20 minutes was not terribly effective today, especially defensively. Late rotations, kind of the storyline of the game for Golden State, and just was not great overall. But, I mean, we kind of buried the lead for 16 minutes in the show, and that is that the Phoenix Suns started off the game 14 of 20 from 3 in the first half. You're not winning games when the other team goes 14 of 20. Quite frankly, they should have been down more than the 17 points they were down when the Suns hit that 14 three-pointer. I mean, Warriors look like they're falling apart coming in from the chat. I thought they were one of the best teams in the West. I want to pump the brakes on that falling apart. It is early. And they were missing Kuminga for a couple. They were missing Steph Curry for one. All 3 of those games were tight. In today's game, they fought hard in the second half, tried to pick up some momentum down the stretch of the game, but the first half was just an abomination. But I don't want to say falling apart. I mean, how's the vibes in the locker room? That's the biggest thing. How's everyone getting along? Because it's a long season of playing together, and we haven't even hit December yet. Now, it's about to be December. And the Warriors still in the top 4, still have everything in front of them. But, yeah, if you thought the Warriors were better than the Phoenix Suns, not in this one today. Suns were just better in almost every facet. Durant goes for 21 points on 7 of 20 shooting. Not even his greatest game shooting for Phoenix. But he was second on the team to Booker's 27. I like Booker. He's just tough, knows where to be on the floor, hard-nosed defender. He'd be nice in a Warriors jersey. 27 points, 9 assists for Devin Booker. And remember the talk before the season that the Phoenix Suns were going to be a dumpster fire. They were going to fall off a cliff, and they were going to sell literally everyone because they would have no other choice. And that would kind of be their plan. And maybe the Warriors could gobble up someone that they had under contract. I don't think that's the plan anymore. I think they were actually serious when they said they're riding this thing into the ground. They put way too much money into this thing, and they're going to see it fall apart, or they're going to at least try to compete for an NBA championship. But we're continuing the conversation. The mailbag is open. Hop in the comments. Going to try to feature as many of these as possible as we talk about a Warriors team right now that just needs some more dogs. And today they just needed some more points. Is a 20-point second quarter is not going to get it done. And then in the fourth quarter, just picked it up a little too late with a 13-2 run down the stretch that made it closer than it appeared, but 113-105 the final score. We continue. Locked On Warriors. All right, let's tell you about FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. So when you get that hunch during the middle of the game, you want to go to FanDuel because they have consolidation. You could do everything together on one page. That means placing your bets, viewing the live play-by-play, the latest stats. It's all there where you place the bet. New customers, you bet $5, you get $150 in bonus bets if you win. So this is the place to be. It's FanDuel.com. You can join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Haven't been able to do any of those in a long time. The Warriors lose the game. They do not cover as well. Today's episode also brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. The nice thing about the Game Time app, the closer you get to your event, cheaper the tickets get. So for the procrastinators or for the people that want to skip the box office but not also buy their tickets online 2 days beforehand, Game Time's for you. You can do it at the last second. You can get a panoramic view from your seats in the app. So download the Game Time app and use that code Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create, account, redeem, code Locked On NBA, $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It is game time and showtime. All right, so we got Pods did his job tonight. Can't blame Kerr either. Yeah, I mean, we always try to find, as fans, we always try to find something to blame. And my something to blame is just the Warriors are not on the road, not shooting the ball exceptionally well, having some cold shooting nights from certain players in particular. A first half that was not good from Jonathan Kuminga. We mentioned he missed all his shots. And then the Suns just going 18 of 35 from deep in the game, 51%. And 14 of those threes on 20 attempts in the first half. That's where you put a game away in the first half. And I say that as if a 17-point lead means anything in the NBA. But as we saw down the stretch of the game, with a 15-point lead being evaporated to or cut into a 6-point game by the Warriors, that those leads definitely go quickly. But yeah, Pods look good. Pods, one of the few positives for the Warriors, along with, I would say, the fight down the stretch. Again, it doesn't look like a team that's 1,000% defeated. That's why I don't want to say falling apart in front of our eyes, but they're on a skid. They're on a 4-game losing streak. The schedule does not get any easier. They can definitely fall apart in front of our eyes quickly if this continues. I mean, you're not going to have any get-right games anytime soon. Your get-right game is with like Indiana in a week or two. So, Young West says they're going to drop lower than 4th this month. Very possible. Very possible by the end of this week they drop lower than 4th. The most realistic options for trades. Glad you asked, Jay. Glad you asked. Love to hear it from the chat too. That Vucevic one, I mean, you got the chips to get it done. Bulls are looking for picks. You've got picks. Bulls would potentially be looking for a young player that's not utilized properly in the Warriors system. I mean, you have that Moses Moody contract now. You have him locked up. Now, I don't know if that would be a bad thing to where a team would look at Moody and say, no, we don't want to take on that $13 million a year. I don't know how the rest of the NBA views him. That's the biggest thing with that contract if you're trying to flip it. But you do have players that you could sandwich in there, specifically DeAnthony Melton's expiring contract. And for those of you that say, well, DeAnthony Melton's contract provides no worth, why would you ever do that? I don't have Vucevic's full contract in front of me, but I'm sure it's $20 million over multiple years. And in the NBA, when you're trying to ditch a contract, when you're in a complete rebuild like the Bulls, where you're not winning a championship or sniffing a championship anytime soon, you want to get bad money off the books. Or not bad money, but just money that's not going to help you win a championship. If he's not your future, it doesn't make sense. So you unleash that $20 million. You bring in Melton's $12 million, whatever it may be. Melton never plays, but the money's off the books in the offseason. So I hope that makes sense there. We got an Obi Toppin signing. My sister was a Dayton Flyer back in the day, so I was a big Obi Toppin guy. Never got his chance in the NCAA tournament, so hate that. But the athletic power forward or center that can hit threes is the move for the Golden State Warriors. Yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, yes. Unfortunately, this world is far from perfect. But the Dubs do need someone. That is my strong takeaway from today's game. The bench totals for real time, 37 points, which isn't a travesty by any means, but 23 of them were from Kuminga and Hield. Kuminga's points were just too late down the stretch. So that hurts. And then Trace Jackson Davis offensively, he's given you just about nothing at this point in the season. In his 15 minutes, just 2 points per game. So if you could go out there and get someone like a Vucevic, I mean, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. They need to do something. They know better than I, and I would hope that at this point in the season, they see internally they need to do something. My motto this entire offseason was wait in the weeds, pounce, strike while the iron's hot, you know? And for the Warriors to strike while the iron's hot, the iron's got to be heating up a little bit. And that just means 4th place in the West, like they are now. If they can hang around, I mean, what, they won an NBA championship in 21-22 as the 3 seed, 4 seed. Can't even remember, but it wasn't the 1 or it wasn't the 2 because Memphis was the 2. And damn, who even was the 1? God, it's all blending together at this point in the season. But for Golden State right now, that's the biggest thing to me is who are they going to get? Still playing 13 players even after Melton shows how delusional Steve Kerr is. That coming from Mark Medina. Yeah, I mean, the strength in numbers rotation right now, it's a lot. They're just trying to find someone. I mean, today we mentioned how the ball was sticking. There was no connectivity. There's got to be energy in the basketball. You hear that so much to where it just can't be stale. And when the Warriors tried to put some energy into the basketball and move it, typically it was Draymond Green throwing it away. At least it felt like it was him over and over. He only had the 4 turnovers, but they need someone to come in there and give them a spark. And today they pushed every button. They pushed Waters off the bench. They gave Kuminga his run at 20 minutes. Buddy Hield had his moments. Gary Payton, they gave him 12 minutes. The one that doesn't make sense is Moody, 3 minutes. I truly don't think he's that bad. I mean, I don't think that the people that hop in the comments and say Moody's the second coming of Paul Pierce, I don't see that. And I don't know why I'm even comparing him to Paul Pierce there. But I just don't see Moses Moody as someone that's going to be a household name in this league outside of the Golden State Warriors and outside of Fayetteville, Arkansas. The NBA casuals may not know who he is, and it may be that way for a while. But at the same time, you look at the Phoenix Suns, and if you're not a diehard fan of this league, you may say, who the heck is Ryan Dunn, who's getting 20 minutes for Phoenix? Most people know who Royce O'Neal is, but you get my point to a certain extent that Moses Moody, if anyone says Moses Moody is him, Moses Moody's not him. He's another role player for the Warriors, but I do think he's a role player that deserves more minutes than Pat Spencer. And then Kyle Anderson getting 7 minutes in the game today. That's one that doesn't make a ton of sense to me. The only thing you can look at is the Warriors were down early. They needed offense. And when you need offense, Kyle Anderson's not the first name you call. And I'm going down the sheet, and that first name would be Jonathan Kuminga, and the 19 points doesn't even seem like a ton there. And then Buddy Hield getting 16, that would be your second. So yeah, I mean, there's room to criticize with the rotations. I mean, you're going deep as hell. The one thing that it helps you with is the fresh legs. But if you're letting Phoenix get anything they want, 48%, 51% from 3, and send them to the line 22 times, what good is the fresh legs? Play your best players at that point, and your best players involved. I mean, let's go with the pluses in the game today. The experiment. It's Draymond Green at a +6. It's Andrew Wiggins at a +12. It's Curry at a +4. It's Podziemski at a +5. And it is Kevon Looney at a +1. Looney got 16 minutes. And the rest of them, Podziemski, Curry, Wiggins, and Draymond. I mean, Kerr can't do much more with that. He gave Curry the 32 minutes that you should expect, played Wiggins 34, Podziemski 33. So when I say that and do that little experiment of running down the numbers, they just don't have enough dudes. I mean, if you're going to point the finger at anyone, it shouldn't be Steve Kerr. It should be Mike in the offseason for not getting enough dudes. But he did. I mean, he brought in Melton. Melton gets hurt. That changes the dynamic of everything. Melton was better than he's getting credit for. I 1000% think. And that's just the sticky situation the Warriors in right now. And the only way to get out of it is to, one, wait and see if I'm just completely overreacting by this entire situation. But it is 4 straight losses. And then aside from waiting, the only other thing is go out and pounce. Go out and start talking with some other GMs, seeing who's available, seeing who of your young core or of the draft picks that you have, a team would be willing to ship someone your way in exchange for those. Because right now I'm going up and down the roster, and man, you get the rose-colored glasses going pretty quickly when you start winning games and race out to an 11-2 record. But when you're 12-7 with 4 straight losses, many of those losses to teams that aren't that great, it's a little scary now. Moody definitely deserves more minutes. It's coming in from John Brown. I agree, but then at the same time, we get Tony Smith saying Moody can't keep his man in front and struggles shooting the ball. So, I mean, it's just a tale of 2 different perspectives, and the perspective of the most important person in making that decision, Steve Kerr, says that Moody doesn't deserve more than 3 minutes unless he's dealing with an injury or something. I did see the ice pack on the knee the last game. So who knows behind the scenes, truly. But yeah, we didn't see any of him in the game today. We got the roster needs to figure it out. They probably won't get help from the outside. Yeah, I mean, you got to factor that in too. Not many teams are looking to help the Warriors. You'd have to mortgage quite a bit to get a player from a team that has been in the mix and has fought with the Warriors over the years. I mean, no one wants to gift wrap Golden State another NBA championship. So that's another factor that comes into it. So if you're looking for the help internally, I mean, you point the finger at Kuminga's got to be better. I mean, I thought Wiggins did his part today again. He's had better games this season, but again, 18 points. We asked for 17-point Wiggs. He's been 17-point Wiggs. Shoots at nearly 50% from the floor and from three. The rebounding number's a little low for Wiggs, but he's a plus 12. I don't really see pointing the finger at Wiggs. I mean, Curry's still Curry after an abominable start. Podziemski had himself a good game. Draymond, the turnovers are a little out of control, but I mean, it's the bench. It's when you go to the bench, it's not good enough. It's deep enough with guys that are solid, but I do think we got the rose colored glasses on a little too early in the season. So, yeah, Suns played terribly outside of 3-point shooting. How did the Warriors lose? 3-point shooting, 18 of 35, 14 of 20 in the first half. They got down by a ton. And when they tried making runs, they had to take their starters out. The numbers, the plus minus backs that up. You don't even have to watch the game. You could just look at that and know the story. And that's the Warriors would cut it down to 10. They'd cut it down to 12. It would go right back up to 16, so on and so forth. And we saw it until the very last minute of the game when the Warriors cut it down to 6. They had an opportunity. There was a steal there, and they just could not get the job done. So hearing a bunch of names right now in the chat, also hearing from KS that Kuminga's not effective quickly enough. I think by that you're meaning that maybe not making his decisions quick enough. I don't know. Had a couple strong takes to the bucket tonight that got rejected. He's lethal in transition, but his take, in the half court, he's not LeBron James. He is not the wrecking ball in the half court that he is in transition. He's got to figure out that mid-range game. He had opportunities today to put it up from 8-10 feet, and he was just looking for someone else. You need an alpha from Jonathan Kuminga. If you're going to pay him a ton of money in the offseason, you need an alpha. So we got Jakob, little Jakob Poeltl action. Can we get him? Again, I don't know, but you got to start targeting someone. Is JK done developing from Jose Ortiz? No, he's not done developing. The issue is you got to figure out what you're doing with your financials moving forward. That involves, matching the rights if someone goes after him in the offseason and paying him that exact amount of money. So it depends on how much you value him. And right now they value him at 19 minutes a game when Podziemski's getting 33 and Wiggins is getting 34. I mean, hell, before the season on this show, we had legit conversations, myself and every host that came on this show, that maybe Kuminga could start over Wiggins and that Wiggins' time was on the bench. And God, that sounds so stupid. A month later, sounds so stupid. So what do you do? Tony comes in. He's been developing for 4 years and counting. LOL. Yeah. I mean, at this point, I don't think he's got significantly better from last season to this season. Still a solid player, still someone that helps your team more than he hurts you off the bench. Although today his team low -14 or second to Buddy Hield's -15 does not imply, at least on paper, that he helped you that much. So what do you do? What do you do right now if you're the Golden State Warriors? You get back to the drawing board and you get ready for their next contest. I'm looking at this real time. It's the Denver Nuggets. They play them on, let's do the math here. It's Saturday the 30th. They play them on Tuesday, December 3rd. And if it's Monday, I'm an idiot. Sorry about it. But they play them on December 3rd. 5 p.m. it looks like. That game is on TNT. And then after that, it gets no easier. We've run through the gauntlet that is, but if you haven't paid attention to it, it's after Denver. It's Houston, who's a top 4 team in the league, actually ahead of you right now, and looking for payback after you went up 30 on them in Houston and they almost stormed back before losing in overtime. Then you got the baseball series with Minnesota. You got them 3 times over the course of, or I guess back-to-back, not back-to-back, but a Friday-Sunday matchup against Minnesota at Chase. Then it's Memphis, and obviously you have the here's one nice thing. If we give you one positive on the way out the door, it's that the Warriors are still in play for the NBA Cup. They've been great on Tuesday and Fridays, which are when the NBA Cup games are, and they're still in the mix, having advanced to the quarterfinals. So we'll see how that thing kind of shapes out. But the guaranteed games after Minnesota, it's Memphis, it's Minnesota again, it's Indiana, it's LA, it's the other LA, it's Phoenix again, it's Cleveland, it's Philly, who knows, could be right by the new year. So you got a gauntlet heading into the new year. You got to start winning some of these games. And today was one that they just never gave themselves a chance to win with the way that the Warriors started off the first half. So appreciate everyone for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, now's the time to do it. It's free. We come with content after all the games on Monday through Friday. Also could check us out wherever you get your audio podcast. Good way to take us on the go, listen to us in the car while you don't want to do any work, whatever it may be. We'll be there for you. We'll break down the games, try to be fair and unbiased for the most part. And the unbiased take on the Golden State Warriors right now, we need more dogs. We need more dogs.
You need to be more like a dog. 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 You need to be more like a dog.
Ride it off, Bennett.
You need to be more like a dog. You need to be